Hello, good afternoon, everyone. I think you seem to be afraid of me. Please come and move forward. I feel like a teacher in a class. Fantastic, thank you very much. A little bit of surprise. Já mluvím česky, já jsem se narodila v Praze, ale žila jsem v Mariánských Lázních, já jsem odešla, když jsem měla 12 roku. Já jsem viděla moji první operu, když jsem měla 8 roků v Mariánských Lázních a tam taky byl Luna Park, kde jsem viděla hodně operu a od té doby jsem milovala hudbu. Já jsem taky chodila do hudebné školy, učila jsem se hrát na piano, byla jsem absolutně hrozná, ale to mě naučilo milovat hudbu. A to je to nejdůležitější, co se může stát pro každého. A to je něco, co vždycky, když přijdu do České republiky, já cítím, že každý miluje hudbu. Něco, co není v Anglii, a to mě velice zlobí. Now I'm going to go back into English because my vocabulary is not that great. The education in the Czech Republic for music is still superior, and the fact that you have this fantastic academy here is a proof, and people who have graduated and have the most amazing career is truly admirable. I have been in fundraising for the last, I would say, about 25 years, being involved with the Friends of Covent Garden, which is an organization that has existed for more than 50 years. And it was started as a club for people to support the Opera House, but above all, to really enjoy themselves. But of course, you as students will be graduating and hopefully will be creating music. And nowadays, in order to create music, you have to be your financiers, you have to work out how you're going to earn money for it. And therefore I thought it's going to be quite helpful if I just outline what we do in the Opera House. Now, it's very important that I stress it works at the Opera House in London, in the United Kingdom. It might not work in other countries. It's a model which is a combination of what they do in the US and what is happening in Europe. In other words, we still get quite a lot of money from the government, although it's decreasing, and we have to apply to the government every 3 years for a grant, and the government informed us that it's going to go down. So we reckon that in about 50 years it might be very, very low. However, fundraising is called development, and I thought, development is a rather strange word. What does it actually develop? And I sort of looked into a Czech dictionary. Because actually in Czech, there are more words than there are in English. And it actually includes all of them. Because you're not building a house, you are not building anything. What you're doing, you are actually building relationship and relationships. So in our opera house, we have 35 people working for us, and I don't know how many of you were in the session this morning where Dore was saying how important it is to have a lot of people. It is actually. We raised this year £26 million, which is more than we get from the government. This is for the first time that we did that. How do we do it? We have membership, we have individual philanthropy, we have events, trusts and foundation, corporate sponsorship, legacies, and the most important is accounts somebody who works it all out and it works. Because, sometimes everybody gets a little carried away. And however much you try to plan, we are all in arts. We are quite emotional. We get carried away. And therefore it's always good to have somebody, we call them the English word for accountants sometimes is bean counters. They really count. And it's important to have those people. What is membership? I mentioned the Friends of Covent Garden. That's a membership. People pay relatively little money and support you. The advantage is that you can research those people, you know who they are, and you hope they will support you year by year. We have various levels. The English term for it, again, it came from the United States, is ladder of giving. A ladder is you have a wide base and you go up, so it's a triangle. So you try to have quite a lot of people at the bottom and very few people at the top. But you want to give the benefits, because obviously everybody wants something in return. You have to be very careful what you give to everyone, because taking benefits away is very difficult, because people talk to each other. Legacies is quite important, because of course people can promise you the money in their lives. Whether they give it to you at the end is another story. But we now have in our country quite a famous PR person who lobbied the government so that people can 10% of your estate, if you give 10% to charity, your overall estate gets taxed a little bit less. So it's an advantage to an individual to leave a legacy to a charity. And charity can be the opera house, can be a hospital, can be anything. So it's generally basically to encourage people to leave something to a charity. Individual philanthropy, see, this is where it becomes quite difficult, because individual philanthropy is in a way the same as membership. But for philanthropy, you basically expect nothing in return. And you ask philanthropists to give you more money than membership. So the question that can be asked now is really membership the thing that you need when you do something? Yes, it's great if you are selling something, and if there is a finite thing, the finite number of tickets that you are selling. So if you have, let's say, an incredibly successful show, and you know that you only are doing it twice, and the total of seats is 1,000, and there might be some people who will not be successful, then a membership is a good idea, because you can say, well, if you want to come to my show, you will have to become a member, and, that's what happens. And, it's not a guarantee you will get a ticket, but you really need to be very careful, because membership, you have to have something desirable. Whereas philanthropy, you actually appeal to the person's sense. As Doris said this morning, you make people cry. I wouldn't quite go as far as that, but you would say you inspire people. People like what you do. They want you to continue with what you do. So they will support you and they will help you. We do circles of support. So that's again to get people together that support the same cause and they like each other. So we will have for example, we'll have a Wagner circle. Wagner is always very popular. People are very passionate about it. They want to discuss what they do. And we charge them £5,000 for 5 events. We don't say that each event costs you £1,000, which is what? €1,300 or €1,400. It's a lot of money. But they actually love meeting each other, and we will invite very special guests. It could be an artist, it could be a director, or it can be even a sort of private soiree that you will do with a piano. So it's again getting people involved, and it's not just one person, it's a group of people, which is another model for fundraising. And it's quite important, particularly if you want to, if you graduate and want to have a nice show or something, to have a group of people is quite helpful and really nice. I mentioned it this morning, we also offer role support. We never offer a specific artist, simply because the artist can cancel. And then the supporter can say, I don't want to do it anymore. So it's very much a role support and a production support. But again, you have to be careful about production support, because you have to name the right amount. So you've got to be quite sure what your group of supporters is, or what the market will bear for that particular amount. Events are very successful. These could be whole house galas, partial galas, and then we do very small events. For example, in the Opera House, we will put, for a corporate sponsor, we will put a little ballet masterclass. So we will have to ensure that we have a studio in place. We then have the dancers that will do it. And we need to ensure that we have the right catering in place, because people always like to have a drink afterwards. Also, what I find is quite important, people are always much nicer to talk to after they've had, certainly in England, a glass or two of wine. They become much nicer altogether. We also do events away from the Opera House. We have a very successful series called the Connoisseur Series, where some of our more wealthy supporters are happy to open their homes and invite artists. And they will then lay out the catering themselves. The advantage of that is that the hosts will put the event on, will basically pay for the cost of everything, and we can invite prospects. We always invite people that we think will support us. It's leading by example. Next one. Trusts and foundations. I don't know whether you have that in the Czech Republic. Families tend to put money in trusts for specific reasons. Most trusts are for education purposes. For example, we are putting on next year Król Roga by Szymanowski, and there is a big institute in Poland, the Mackiewicz Institute, that seems to be very well endowed, and it is supporting that particular show. So it's always important to do your research in case there is somebody out there who has a particular affinity to the work that you are putting on, so you can secure extra funding. There are some private trusts around. You can research those, and it's always worthwhile to send an application. It might be, initially they might just support you with a very small amount, but if you engage with the trustees, they actually might support you more if they like what you do. So again, it's a different type of relationship. So see, that's where the word development is so important. You are really developing very different relationships with organizations and people. We also do a lot of appeals. I don't know, I haven't quite seen it here yet, but particularly before Christmas in the UK, there are a lot of charities that send out requests for money. We do regular appeals throughout the year. For example, the most successful is for the ballet company is called point shoes. What it means is you pick something that is utterly and completely necessary to have in order to put a performance on. I mean, ballet dancers can't do without point shoes, and point shoes cost each the equivalent of 70 euros. So it is something tangible that people really, really associate with. So if you tell them, look, a dancer goes through 300 pairs of shoes a year, it is something that they will give you. They might not give you the whatever one pair of shoes costs, but they might give you half. But if you send it to a lot of people, it does mount up. And this is why, appeals are important. What you have to bear in mind, or we very carefully bear in mind, that you can't send appeals too often because there is a certain fatigue that can set in, and people get fed up and they say, oh God, not again, and it goes straight into the bin. So you really don't want to do that. In the UK, the climate for corporate sponsorship is not very good. It is improving, and the reason it has been so bad is because of the economic crash in 2008. We now also have an Anti-Bribery Act. A lot of companies are very aware that if they entertain clients, it could be considered bribery, and therefore they don't want to spend more than a certain amount of money when they entertain their clients. So if a ticket is more than, let's say, 200 euros, they might feel that this is not the right thing they ought to do. So we are offering them other packages. So again, we adjust it according to the conditions that we operate in. So what we have the Royal Box in the Royal Opera House. It's possibly one of the worst seats in the Opera House, because the boxes in Covent Garden were not built to see what is happening on stage, but in order to see each other. And the Royal Box is right on the side, so you actually see half the stage. But the reason it's there, because it has its own entrance and exit directly to the street, so it's basically because of security. The Royal Opera House is also, just a little remark, the only opera house that doesn't face a square. It actually faced a police station, because on the other side of the Royal Opera House was a flower market, and it was very seedy, and apparently Queen Victoria felt very insecure. That's why there was a police station many years ago in front of the Opera House. And it's not helping us, because actually, I don't know how many of you were in England, but Covent Garden is an incredibly busy and wonderful area. But a lot of people, when they go there, actually don't know that they can reach the Opera House from there. So one of the things that we are actually looking at is develop it in 2016 in such a way that the frontage is going to be a little bit more obvious, and that we have at the moment ridiculous double doors or revolving doors, and people get stuck in them. So it's actually not helpful. But it's just a little joke. Anyway, coming back to the Royal Box, because it's the Royal Box, and behind the Royal Box is a retiring room, and the Queen doesn't attend as much, but Prince Charles does. So some corporate sponsors actually like it very much because it's so unique. They can come from the street if they wish to. So we sell them an evening. So we sell them an experience. So they can come in, they have their private toilet, they can have their private champagne, they can bring their private servants, and then they can have dinner. So we're basically selling them a little package. We offer them production support, but to be perfectly honest, unless we have a relationship with a bank, which we do, you don't get a lot of corporate support here for productions. What we do is we look for support for everything we serve in the Opera House. So we will have champagne. We have a deal with a champagne company. We'll have a deal with a mineral water company. We also with the wine companies, ice cream. It's not the Royal Opera House ice cream. It still says whatever champagne it is, but it's a special deals. And this year we have a champagne company that is quite rare, and you can't just buy it in any supermarket. So actually it's a very good deal. So the champagne company is very pleased about it because it's getting the exposure. And for us it's good because people can't buy it in the shop, and therefore they don't really know how much it costs. Planning. Now, planning is the most important thing. I received today our schedule for 2017. So we know what are the new productions that are being planned, so we can plan who we are going to approach. What is the fit between certain people, certain companies, or anything we feel that might appeal to them. We also know roughly how much it will cost and how much money we need to raise. Normally, I mean, halfway through the year we are told anyway that, you know, the company needs more. So we have to planning is the most important thing. In the development department, we have a director who is a senior director, so she will be in regular meeting with the chief, with the CEO and the artistic company. Under that we have 9 heads. I'm one of them, and each head is consulted is about budgets, and we have to predict roughly what we are going to deliver so that the overall budget for the next year and the year after is possible to predict. Again, as I said before, in the case of philanthropy, we try to match the scheme to the people that we work with. With the events, we are trying to block the event that we do, so we know, so if there is no opera or ballet in an evening, we try to see if we can have a gala on that evening. We'll do the same with the studios that we have. I will be involved in trying to promote higher levels of membership. So I will write to people, you know, if you become a higher member, you can do this, this, and this. Again, we will look for additional corporate support or increase the support that we have. And we will do the same with the trusts and foundations. Of course, the accounts team adds it all together, puts the VAT on top of it, and additional cost, and a 10%, you know, if we don't deliver. Now, one of the great things is that actually a department of 35, we all work together, we all talk to each other, we all make jokes together, and there is no competition between us, which is absolutely wonderful. And we all have different strengths, so, you know, we might have a row one day, but we always, always work together. Because if you don't work together, none of that will work. Communication. What do we do? How do we communicate with our members? I coordinate a magazine which comes out 4 times a year. This is done by an outside company, but the magazine has to combine information of what we do, for what people can buy tickets. It also has to highlight the support, but in such a way that the lower level supporters don't feel that we have too many high supporters and therefore we don't need the little supporters anymore. So you've got to filter it incredibly carefully. So everybody feels that they are involved and everybody has an opportunity to do something if they wish to do so. And there are some people who you will never please. And, you know, you can't win everybody. Data. Again, this was something that was mentioned this morning. It's called CRM. It's Client Relationship Manager. But what it does, more than anything, it combines not only what people give you, it combines the tickets they buy, all their contact details. You can add it to it, who knows whom, how they are related, how they work together. So again, you know exactly to whom you're speaking. We have researchers in our team, and we research people very carefully as well. We use, it was mentioned this morning, where people live and how much houses are worth. Although it doesn't always work, certainly not in the UK, because people could be living in very expensive homes, but they don't have any liquid cash, so it doesn't always work. But it gives you a snapshot of your supporters, particularly in London. London is very sprawled out, and it's only just now that people are starting to move back into the city, but the idea was that the inner city of London was for working, whereas you lived outside. And the transport actually is not wonderful, and many elderly people are a bit worried about coming into town in the evening. So we need to bear that in mind as well. As I said, solicitation. Solicitation is a very much an American phrase. It's basically your discussion, the progress of your discussions with a certain person. And particularly if you have a large department, it's important that you know what your colleague is doing. So if you talk to the same person, you can always refer to the previous conversation. Because it looks extremely stupid if you speak to somebody and the person tells you, oh, I've already had a telephone call from your colleague. Don't you speak to each other? You know, you really don't want to hear that. So really to summarize is we need to plan very strategically. You need to work together with your colleagues across departments, and you have to review and modify, because, you know, sometimes with the best of plans, there is something that goes wrong. And because if something goes wrong, it doesn't mean you failed. It means that you have to change it. And you have to be very flexible and just and try again. And I'm a great one for, you know, you need to talk to everyone. We do segmentation of our data. That's part of the CRM. So what it means that, you know, somebody who comes to ballet, you don't ask him all the time to come to opera. Somebody who only comes to well-known work, you are very careful not to ask him to something which is very modern. We work with the press a lot, but again, newspapers in the UK, the sale of newspapers is down. And as people tell me, arts don't sell newspapers, so the coverage of arts is really not great in the newspaper. We use our website for a lot of articles because we try to have our supporters engaged with us via our website. We do cinema screenings. We are now breaking even. We can't say whether it's taking audience away from our productions. It's too early days. I don't think it does. But what we are looking to create, and this is something quite new, is we want to create some sort of relationship with our cinema audiences. Because obviously they like what they see, and they might be willing to support us. Again, these might be elderly people, and they might be pleased to leave a legacy for us. Again, I would like to take this opportunity to use something which I wouldn't consider as my personal failure, but I would say I could have done better. We had a supporter a while ago who lived in Scotland, and every year I used to get a cheque for £1,500, and I always used to send her a very personal letter saying thank you for that support, and asking her to come to London, that I will take her on a backstage tour, etc., etc. No, she didn't reply. A few years later, I heard that she left millions to the Metropolitan Opera. And the reason she did that is she used to go to the local cinema, and she used to also listen to the radio, where, of course, the Metropolitan Opera used to play. And the Met knew about it, and they actually sent somebody from New York to see her. So I was a little bit angry with myself. You know, I don't know whether it would have been nearer for me to go to Scotland, or is it nearer to fly from New York, but I think we missed something there. So, you know, when we heard this morning, you should really go out to your donors. It's terribly important. And, you know, to have the relationship is absolutely essential. Thank you very much. And I'm sure you will have a lot of questions, so please ask.
I'd like to ask you if you can speak about human resources. How do you find people to your team and so on?
Okay. Fundraising, there are a lot of people who want to go into fundraising. And they start, in the arts, it normally starts people who have a passion for the arts. And they will do it as a summer job, or they will already do it at university because they want to put a show on. So, you know, they will see what it's like. Charity organizations in the UK, like cancer charities, hospitals, have had fundraising departments for a long time. So we simply advertise on our website, and we interview people very carefully. But, you know, there has to be a certain aptitude for it, that you have to be very patient, you have to listen.
There are some 35 people in your department. How was the situation some 10 years ago? Was it the same, or is there some development?
We used to be 5.
Okay.
We used to be 5. I still have a very small team. It's me and 2 more. I've now got a senior manager whose first task is to do a major review of the Friends of Covent Garden, simply because we've been around for 52 years, and it's sometimes quite important to have somebody from outside to have a look and compare it, benchmark it with other organizations, because everybody is doing it. You know, it's quite good to know, you know, is there something that we can tweak, that we can make changes that will make it more efficient. Although changes are not easy, but it is quite important. And she also is going to be looking at this digital membership, which is going to include the cinema audiences, because what we are trying to get is data. I mean, data is everything these days. And the cinema don't have data, because if you buy a cinema ticket, you don't have to give your name and address. You just put your credit card into a machine. So what we try to see, if there is something that we can put on our website to see who is going to the cinema, and again communicate with the people slightly differently. We invested a lot of money in our website because we wanted people to be able to buy tickets through the internet. Having been around for quite a few years, I won't quite say I remember a quill pen, but I certainly remember fountain pens. I'm not sure whether buying tickets on the internet is good for high donors. I don't think it is. We don't actually sell tickets to our biggest donors through our system. We have personal box office that does it, because I feel that big donors want to speak to one person. They want to have a chat. You know, this is part of the cultivation, that, you know, you really want to be involved with the people that you work with. So I don't know whether internet can do everything for you. Certainly can do a lot, but not everything.
I have one more question. You told us about grants that you apply every 2 years for it. So you have no other grants from the government or from the municipality? How are the percentages in this area?
We get 27 million pounds from the government. 25 million pounds from the government. We used to get third of our budget from the government. Now it's quarter. So you can see how it's going down. We have an overall operating budget of about 110 million. The tickets are about 40. The fundraising is 26. We also do a lot of commercial activities. For example, during the summer, we will have conventions. We do fashion shows during the fashion week. You know, everything is for sale at the Royal Opera House, you know, space-wise. We do weddings. We also, I mean, this was quite amazing. We have a member of the board who used to be a dancer, and she likes to have her own shows. And she actually writes them with somebody. And at first we thought, oh my God, you know, the last thing you need is a board member who decides to be an artist or a writer. But she put these shows on, which were absolutely incredible. And because she is incredibly well connected, she got a director from the National Theatre to direct the show for nothing. She got actors to recite stuff for nothing. So we got some opera singers to do it for nothing. And then this particular person invited 100 of her best friends, who paid about £500 each for a ticket, and the whole thing was an incredible success. Cost us nothing, you know, and they all had a great time. I mean, there are people out there who are not really interested in what goes on in the main stage. They just like these exclusive little shows. So why not? You just give it to them, you know, if they like it, if they go home and have a great time, why not?
How do you communicate with your potential general partner? If you have some general partners, like, who support you at most?
We don't throw our eggs in one basket, is the right English expression. So we don't have a general partner. We have many. We also, I don't know whether you've ever been to the Opera House, we don't put logos, commercial logos, in our program, partly because logos take too much room, and also for some people you can't. It's very difficult to make a hierarchy if you have logos, because some logos will attract more than others, and we are very keen, you know, to show exactly what support partners give us. So to answer your question, there is no one partner. I wish there was, but there isn't. The other thing that is also quite important, actually wasn't mentioned throughout any of the sessions, is when we have a partner, even if it's an individual, we try to commit them for 3 years. So even if it means that we might get less, but at least we know that we have an income for the next 3 years. They also like it much better But, you know, they can give it to you in 1 year, but you will say to them, okay, we will acknowledge it over the next 3 years. So again, our system is able to record it. So that particular person will get a recognition for what he gave, which is then divided. So if, for example, somebody says, I'm going to give you £900,000, so we will record it as £300 each year. So for that, he can have a recognition for 3 productions, and obviously we will discuss what productions they would like to be acknowledged. And they like it because it gets 3 times the exposure, and we get the money.
May I ask you for the way how the members or the biggest partners are let it know to the audience, like that someone can read in program who did grant it for this production, or what are the ways on publishing website?
Again, we have a very strong hierarchy. So we add up what they give, and there are levels of support. So we have that in the program, the back pages, so they know exactly what they're doing. What we don't do, which they do in the United States, we don't say how much they give, but they have a name. So if somebody rings up and asks, you know, how much actually does this group give, we will tell them. And obviously some people don't want to be acknowledged. But as I said, if you work in fundraising, thinking of benefits, it's incredibly important. And of course, taxation as well. We do have tax benefits for individuals, but not companies. I mean, it was incredibly, I don't know what happens in the Czech Republic now. In France, I just heard that companies can reduce, a sponsorship of the arts is 60% tax benefit, which is incredible. Corporate sponsors don't get anything. Could be marketing expense, but it's certainly not a corporate, it's not acknowledged. So that's why I would imagine the corporate sponsorship is also not that great in the UK, because they don't get much. And individuals can't get anything either. We have a very complicated system, which is called gift aid, where if a company is a registered charity, we can claim from the government 25% of the donation they give, but we can't give any discounts to these people, or we can't give them anything for free. So if you're thinking in terms of membership, it's very, very little that we can give. And most of our donors are, that applies obviously to the higher donation as well, so that makes it even more complicated. Which do you have other tax reliefs in the Czech Republic for gifts? Does anyone know? Are there? I mean, this is very important, because when people, you know, on a personal level, when people know that they give you a donation and they have tax benefit, it does help. Nobody likes paying tax.
You probably mentioned it before, but do you have some structure of what you provide to the specific donors? I mean, like, for example, up to 5,000 per year, you provide this package, and up to 50,000. Is it some, because you said they communicate between each other, because so it's tricky not to provide to one something different, or is it probably more personal thing?
Yes, we do have a package of goodies that we give to people. If they support a production, we invite them to working rehearsals, which is something that most donors absolutely adore. I mean, I can give you another example what happened, because, you know, not everything is always fantastic. We have a group of supporters. They pay quite a bit of money for, so they have priority booking ahead of, you know, the 20,000. And something went wrong with the booking, and they couldn't book. So they were not very happy. They telephoned us, let us know about it, screamed at us, threatened us, and we knew we had to do something. So what we decided that we will do is we will invite those people to one of those private rehearsals. So I spoke, normally it's quite difficult because they only allow a very small number because you need approval from the orchestra, the director, the artist, etc., etc. So I organized 3 ballet rehearsals and 2 opera rehearsals for which we invited those people, and they absolutely loved it. Of course, now I have an opportunity because the people who came loved it so much, and they completely forgot they had this terrible experience, and it gives me opportunity to write to them and invite them to support us more. So, I'm exploiting a disaster, something possibly good. I don't know, but I'm hoping that out of, I think roughly 20 times 6, about 120 people came to these rehearsals. I'm hoping that there will be a conversion rate of 5 people who will support us further. You're talking in terms of very small numbers. That's quite important. We're not talking here huge numbers, and it takes a long time and a lot of patience.
Thank you.
You mentioned cinema transmissions. What was the main reason, or what were the main reasons before your decision to start this form of opera, this form of cinema transmission of your opera productions? This is the first part of my question. And the second one, from today's point of view, what are benefits or what are advantages of cinema transmission or internet transmission that's free, and disadvantages from today's perspective, if you compare it to the time when you had decided to do this?
We started quite late, actually, well behind after the Metropolitan Opera. That's already established a very stable audience. The advantage for the Metropolitan Opera in New York was that they always did it on a Saturday, and because of the time difference, it was 6 o'clock in the UK, 6 o'clock in the afternoon, which is not a good time for cinema. So they managed to get a lot of cinemas to subscribe to it. Initially, the Metropolitan Opera was also quite difficult to allow the same cinemas to accept transmissions from us, because they obviously didn't want to lose, but they had to relax on that. Our transmissions are not at a fixed time, because sometimes it could be a matinee, although we try to have evening performances only. We have very much improved. We now publish it a year in advance. What's the advantage? I think it will help us. First of all, it will help us within the UK, because at the moment the government is looking into the fact that London is getting the bulk of the money from the government, and maybe the provinces are not. So there is a bit of a backlash about it. So what we are trying to do with the cinemas to say the program is generated in London, but it's actually reaching out into the provinces. So that's important. We are also now transmitting all over the world. So again, we are hoping to engage with larger audiences, and we hope they will come to London and, they will support us. We have been very lucky with a lot of Russians who invest a lot of money in England. So we have a few Russian supporters. We also have a few French supporters who have left France because of the current taxation. So we are looking, and as I said, we are all the time looking at our audiences. So if we see that somebody is coming often, we are certainly there looking out for them. And what we do, we have various stages of engagement, again agreed with the department. So first of all, we will invite them to a private backstage tour. So it won't be a general box office, it'll be one of us in the development department. We will take them backstage, which normally you're not allowed to go. And then we listen what they like to do. And we'll see if there is a potential that they really want to do something. Then we'll invite them to another event and possibly another event. And only then we will actually mention the support. So it's very slow, very, very slow. And sometimes it doesn't work. You know, I had an email today from my colleague. We were cultivating this person who, according to our database, only has about £25 million. So we thought, okay, he could do something for us. So he said, no, I'm sorry, I decided that I really don't want to support you. So fine, okay. You know, it happens. Take the rough and the smooth together. Okay. I think if there are no questions, what I would like to say, if you have any questions after this, you have my email, or if not, I'm sure you can get it. Please do ask. If you are in London, look out for us. We like to share our thoughts, and we can't give you free tickets. We don't give anyone free tickets. You see, this is one of the things we don't do. But we have rehearsals, and we would always try to get you in to see what we do. So thank you very much, and it's been incredibly special for me, incredibly special, because actually my family comes from Moravia. My mother comes from Podivin, my father comes from Břeclav, and my husband's family comes from Brno. So yeah, we're not related, but almost. So yes, it's very special. So thank you very much.